I first received this comic, I immediately fell in love with it. Malik, mission number one. Wow, this has been a long journey. Art is and always will be my first love. And I've been drawing comics since my mom first gave me the blank tissue paper out of her shoebox to trace the characters in the comics. Later, I became a collector, and I had so many books that I got robbed on occasions as a kid. I can think back to my adolescent years in Saturday morning art class where I learned to draw my own original characters. Some of these characters have been reviewed and updated into the new 2023 Malik universe. Mr. Sito, my instructor at New York School of Fine and Industrial Arts Saturday youth classes, was an old head from the era of Kirby and Buscema and set me on the right path. I also met my best friend and fellow artist creator, Raheem Tame One Brown. That's a whole different story for another time. By the time I entered my freshman year at Arts High School, I had created my own comic book universe handbook on a 8.5 by 14 yellow ruled page ledger pad, writing and drawing in pencil and oil pastel. Yep, sounds messy, but that was what I had to work with. I went through the alphabet and created a character for each letter until I got to Z. Stumbling along, I made several attempts at creating pages of original stories and characters, and shortly got distracted or blessed with the influence of graffiti culture and its dynamics. I followed this street art path until I started my first year at Long Island University. Accepted on a partial tuition scholarship, I was out to create my own comic book universe again. I would brainstorm with a guy across the hall in the dorms named Dwayne. He had a concept called Few Survive the Mission. That was about these kids who were taken to another planet and given special powers. College and my lifestyle at the time didn't mix, so that was cut short and revived a couple of years later when I linked up with Gary Alexander at my school attempt, at my second attempt at NSFIA's adult art program. During this time, I was getting heavily into typeface and graphic design. I had no intentions on putting any comic projects out until meeting up with Gary and later two coworkers at Prudential, where the mission concept was revived and revised, along with Kelly Williams and Oshie Shepherd, writing and inputting ideas. Gary and I provided a visual blueprint for what would morph into Beatnik Productions. Few survived the mission. The Union didn't stay together long enough to see the book released as a group, but Kay Williams took the book in one direction while Gary and I did a short run fan size called Stone Child Studios represents. Stone Child Studio represents and featured the very first Reflect story. The First Souls was a new concept group that was creating. The First Souls was a new concept group that I was creating after my departure with Beta Nick. And in the wake of the Black comic book publishers movement, it was literally a string of 3 to 5 page stories drawn traditionally black and white and printed on whatever photocopier that was available. We took our 50 copies to the New York Comic Con and got a pretty good response. Unfortunately, I lost my mom to cancer a few weeks before the convention, my dad a year later, and my focus moved from comics. I did a few editorial pieces for the Source magazine, art directed for a brand licensing company, created signage and floor plans for the Musicland group. After creating hundreds of event flyers, I found myself typesetting several financial institutions. This graphic design plan led me back to school to get an associate's degree in graphic design and a bachelor's degree in animation illustration. It was during this process that Maliq's mission was born. My challenge was a 12-piece illustration series for my senior thesis. I chose this over a 15-page comic book. I knew my workload and commute wouldn't allow the proper time for panel to panel sequential storytelling, so the 12-piece drawing concept turned into a 12-part comic book cover poster. What started as 12 traditionally drawn and inked pages expanded into a brainchild of my long lost, yellow ruled ledger. I'd begun to revive those characters' background stories throughout my recent college years, and now I have this epic adventure to take you all on. Wow, that is truly inspirational. If you haven't already, please go and check out Malik's page and Reflex X. It's an amazing comic, amazing story. And even if you can't buy the comic right now, like, comment, and share.